this weekend with rookie minicamp. And Dallas, in my opinion, went to the draft with a clear plan, Dave. They wanted to get bigger. They wanted to get stronger. They wanted to get more athletic. So which draft pick do you think stood out physically the most this past weekend?
Yeah, I wrote about it on Saturday. I mean, this is probably really basic and obvious, but I mean the first two picks are who stood out. I think everybody knew Sam Williams was an athletic freak. We've talked about how he had the athleticism to be one of the top edge rushers in this class, certainly one of the better edge rushers drafted on day 2. So I wasn't super surprised to see that. But he was impressive, just the athleticism and the twitchiness that he has. But I'll readily admit, I don't want to say I was surprised, but I was pretty impressed by what I saw from Tyler Smith. I mean, you hear that a guy is 6'5", 324, and maybe that he's a raw prospect, and that could be true. But I don't think I was expecting him to move as well as he did. Like, he moves very well for a guy his size. Like, he's not clunky or awkward. He looked very natural playing guard, and I thought that was really impressive since he hasn't done it since he was in high school. So yeah, I was just impressed by how athletic he was, basically.
Would you say that he's ahead of the curve from a guard standpoint, even though he hasn't played it since, like you said, I think junior or senior year in high school? Did it feel that way?
I think it's early to say. I try not to get too hyped about what I see at a rookie minicamp, just because it's shorts to shirts. Not only that, but like, you're not even working with a full roster. Like, they only have the 41 rookies that they brought, so You're severely limited in terms of numbers in a lot of ways. I thought he looked good. Like I said, I thought he looked natural. He didn't really look like he was struggling with the mental aspect of it, and he didn't look like he was struggling from a movement standpoint, like when he needed to pull or do some of the more like athletic things that you ask a guard to do. But we'll see. I mean, when they get out there with the veterans and you got some seasoned NFL pros going against him, it might look different. So, like I said, I don't want to get too hyped, but I did think he looked pretty good.
Hey, wide receiver is one of those positions that I think a bottom of the roster guy has a shot at cracking the team. Which one of those guys, including T.J. Vasher, because we know he came back in for rookie minicamp. Which one of those undrafted guys and T.J. Vasher, what impressed you the most early on?
Man, I'll be really honest with you. I did not notice a whole lot from the passing game, and I hate to throw anybody under the bus, but I thought the quarterback didn't have a wonderful weekend. The two guys they brought in, Terry Wilson and Nick Starkel, the workout guys. And like I said, I mean, you're working with a severely limited roster, so these guys didn't even get to work with like a Will Grier or a Ben DiNucci, let alone a Dak Prescott. It was really windy on Saturday, which led to a lot of balls going where they weren't supposed to. It's hard not to notice T.J. Vasher just because he's so huge. I mean, the guy's just enormous. He's like 6'6". But he looks like he weighs about 150 pounds. I mean, yeah. Brandon Smith is another one, again, just like to get those second-year guys out there and give them a chance to kind of get their feet wet again. But even – I'm not saying Jalen Tolbert had, like, a bad weekend. He was fine, but, like, again, I just think it was really hard to evaluate the passing game. I didn't see a whole lot that caught my eye.
Yeah, I feel like we'll notice more come preseason with those guys when they get a chance to work with the Will Grier or Ben. I know Ben DiNucci's not all world, but at least he's 3 years in.
Yeah, I mean, training camp that's the wide receiver Olympics, like you have so many reps to go around, and you think about the fact that this team, they're not going to have Michael Gallup at camp, and you're probably, CeeDee Lamb is probably at a point where he might be taking some time off just as a, rest and recuperation type stuff. So the young guys are going to have all the time in the world to show their stuff at training camp. I mean, those guys are going to be getting rep after rep after rep.
Hey, earlier you talked about Sam Williams, and we played the clip earlier with Dan Quinn speaking on him, and he sounded real giddy. to have Sam Williams. Was he as hands-on with these guys this year, or Sam Williams in particular? And is that athleticism from Sam as advertised?
So I didn't see anything like funny from Dan. You know, everybody got all excited last year because he put on a helmet and was working on like club moves with Micah. I didn't see anything like that. But I mean, Dan Quinn is just super involved as a coach. Like, he's never going to be more than 5 yards away from whatever action it is that he wants to watch. He's a very vocal type of coach. So nothing crazy like him mixing it up, although it's still early. Like, they haven't even gotten into OTAs, so there's 8 more off-season practices to watch, so he might jump in there before it's all said and done. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, Sam Williams is incredibly impressive athletically. Like Mike McCarthy said it, I think it was on Saturday or Friday, he said he was born to play professional football. And I tweeted about this too. I thought it was really funny. Like, you know, you're asking me all these questions about rookie minicamp, and I always laugh and wonder like what the coaches think about that. It's like, okay, media, like, let's calm down and not overreact to these like teaching practices. But the funny part was McCarthy said it himself. He was like, if you were watching, like, there were 2 reps where he cleanly got into the backfield. And, like, I know it's non-contact, but it was obvious that he beat his man and, like, would have had no problem in a live setting. And I just thought it was really funny that a coach would talk that way. Like, that's usually the way that you and I talk, you know? Like, oh, yeah, like, oh, man, did you see that rep? And usually the coach is like, okay, calm down. Like, they're not even working with pads or anything. But clearly McCarthy was impressed by Sam's get-off. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely got it athletically. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it can be tough. I mean, we want football. We love football. We finally got some not pads, but helmets on shells moving around, and we get excited. We did this last year with Nashawn Wright. He came out rookie camp and looked like, oh, there's something there, and then, you know, he really didn't do too much during the season.
Yeah, it's a weird line to walk because I cover the draft as closely as I do, and and people have called me out on it before. Like, it's always a funny line where you get really excited about a guy. Like, Jabril Cox is a great example last year. Like, he falls all the way to the 4th round. Everybody's pumped about what a good value that is. Like, this could be the steal of the draft. And then he's not getting a ton of reps at training camp, and everybody's like, well, you told me this guy was the truth. And I was like, I do think he's the truth, but this is over the course of like a 4-year game plan, man. I mean, you're probably not going to come in as a day 3 pick and like take reps away from the number 12 overall pick, but then also veteran guys like Keanu Neal and Leighton Vander Esch. Like, right. You kind of have to like readjust your expectations. Unless you're talking about a 1st round pick, I think you kind of have to readjust your expectations once a guy gets on a team and be like, okay, I'm gonna have an open mind about what this guy can contribute, but I also have to remember that he's a rookie and playing time is hard to come by for a lot of these guys.
Well, that 1st round pick, Tyler Smith, we all believe that he's going to be the guy at that left guard position. They won't come out and say it, but we all believe it. But what about the other offensive linemen that were drafted either this year or last year? And I'm talking about Matt Waletzko and Josh Ball, because it sounds like, Dave, and maybe you could touch on this, they're going to go away from the veteran swing tackle. Makes me a little queasy, but that's what it sounds like they're going to do. Where did they have Waletzko lined up? Where was Ball lined up? And did Ball look like, you know, he's moving better since his injury?
Honestly, I'm 99% sure Ball didn't participate.
Wow.
I don't think, because like there's a weird, and I don't know what rule that would be. Like, there's a weird, you know, like the threshold for whether or not you can be cleared to participate as a 2nd-year player. I don't really know how that works, to be perfectly honest with you. So, like, you know, TJ Vasher was allowed because he didn't have a rookie year. He was on NFI all year. And it's weird because, you know, Josh Ball didn't really have a rookie year either. But, yeah, I don't believe he was out there. As far as Matt Waletzko, it was pretty funny. He was like, he got a little bit of work inside at guard, but, like, he was almost exclusively playing left tackle next to Tyler Smith. Like, it was very obvious that that was the duo that they wanted to work on. Like, okay, let's have these guys playing next to each other, left guard and left tackle. They didn't do a whole lot of mixing and matching. And, yeah, to your point, it looks like they want either Ball or Willetsko to be their swing tackle, which, man, I agree with you. That's really scary. That's really scary, especially for a team. I mean, we all love Tyron Smith, but at this point you can just kind of assume he's going to miss a few games.
Right.
So you're talking about one of those guys needing to play meaningful minutes, which is why, I think maybe we go to training camp and we get a good look at these guys. I'm not going to be surprised if they wind up adding a veteran tackle. And that's not a knock on those two. Like I said, it's hard to be good right away as a day 3 pick. And Josh Ball got hurt early into training camp last year, and Willetsko is a rookie coming from FCS. Like, I just don't know how fair it is to expect those guys to be the man from the get-go. So I got a close eye on that, because
Same.
If I had to bet right now, I just feel like, in August we could be talking about oh man, they need to do a trade, or they need to go call this 38-year-old who's not at camp right now.
I'm right with you. I think what they're maybe trying to do is see if, Terrence Steele turned out pretty damn good for a swing tackle. Maybe we can find another Terrence Steele as a young swing tackle, but we got time in case it doesn't work out. We can go call Tyden Secchi if we need to. We know he knows the system, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm with you. I think that's probably how they're viewing it.
And you know what? It's a good point to bring up Terrence, though, because at this point last year, everybody would have freaked out if you'd said they had big plans for Terrence Steele, but he had a great season. And so maybe a year of development for a guy like Josh Ball could go a long way.
Yeah. I'm thinking that's what they're thinking. But again, until those pads come on, until Micah's rushing on Josh Ball, et cetera, then they'll really see if they got an answer.
Right.
So one of my favorite moments, last question here or whatever, favorite moments from the draft is when the Cowboys drafted Ridgeway, and he called in, and y'all were just blown away by his interview. The whole, I'm going to break a neck, the whole, everything he had to say about him. Did that personality kind of come out during rookie camp, or was his size, 6'6", 320, is he just an enormous dude, both personality-wise and physically? How was John Ridgeway up close and personal? Man,
you said it yourself. The Cowboys clearly are trying to get bigger.
Yeah.
And John, so many of these guys, Willetsko, Smith, and Ridgeway, all of them, you're just like, oh my God, they drafted some mutants on this team this year. All these guys are enormous. But yeah, to answer your question, that guy's going to be fun, man. I was joking with another reporter. I was like, we need John Ridgeway to be good so we have a reason to talk to him often, because he's a wonderful interview. He literally they brought him out to talk to us on Saturday, and I was like, yeah, man, so just what's your early impression? What do you think about it through 2 days, whatever, just a very basic question. And he just goes, "It's hot as F in Dallas, man." And he didn't censor himself like I just did. Just right off the rip, just dropping F-bombs in front of the Dallas media. I was like, "Oh yeah, you're just as fun as you were on the phone call." Which, yeah, those guys they're so excited and they want to get back to partying with their families and friends. Those draft day interviews, I don't want to say they're not good, but you typically, know what to expect from them. You're like, yeah, you're very excited, and you kind of had a feeling because Dallas talked to you. They all kind of follow the same pattern, but after 30 seconds on the phone with Ridgeway, I was like, oh, this is different. This is going to be way more entertaining than what we usually get. So yeah, like I said, I hope he has a wonderful career just so I have an excuse to keep talking to him.
I'm dubbing this draft class the attitude era, right? Because I think all these dudes just have that mentality. And I feel like John Big Country Ridgeway is the big show. That's just kind of where I'm putting him at in regards. It's just this big.
Oh, I like that.
Dude, you know what I'm saying?
I like that a lot. Yeah, we said it a lot in our draft coverage. I just feel like the Cowboys decision makers felt like they got bullied last year by the teams that beat them, whether that's San Francisco in the playoffs or Arizona, Denver. some of those teams just kind of slapped them around.
Yep.
And I think that this, on top of addressing their needs, because I clearly think they lean toward their needs, but I also think they were looking for big dudes with an attitude who would kind of, fix that and not have people getting bossed around in the trenches and stuff like that.
I totally 100% agree. You heard Jerry talk about how Mike kept saying, hey, Mike, remember the playoffs, man. Remember the playoffs. Go get me some big boys. Instead of remember the Titans, just remember the playoffs. That should be our mantra. Put that on a shirt.
Remember the San Francisco defensive line.
Facts. Hey, big dog, I'm going to let you get going, man. Get you some Gatorade, get you some electrolytes in you, freshen up. We need you for this week's show if you guys are doing one, man. And keep on covering the Cowboys the way you do. You're fantastic, brother.
Really appreciate it, man. Anytime you need me, just give me a ring.
Will do, man. Have a good day.
You too, dude.
That is my guy, Dave Helman, staff writer for the Dallas Cowboys, man. Give it up for him.